everybody for joining. So this is part of the evergreen marketing track. So this will very much be focused on evergreen content and kind of looking at keyword strategy and SEO from an evergreen standpoint. So what's evergreen? Why does it matter? Well, in this case, got some lovely trees on the bottom of the river. Is that evergreen? What does that mean? It means it's going to last. It means that you're choosing a subject matter that people are going to care about a year from now, 5 years from now, who knows? It doesn't magically guarantee that you're going to be #1 on Google or anything like that. As most people probably know, and we'll talk a little bit, there's always a market competition. And if somebody goes out and writes 1,000 articles about your topic, well, then it's going to be hard to rank. But the point is, and we'll get into some more specific examples, but write informative posts. It's about relevancy of your topic, not necessarily about the time of it or the year or necessarily the trends of the day. It needs little, if any, updating. I mean, that's really the meat of this. How can you produce content and put it out there for free as part of your marketing plan, which is part of a good SEO marketing plan, to produce free content to lead people to your paid content, paid services, products, events, whatever you're selling. But the point is, how can you make the most of that? So evergreen content, that's going to last is more efficient. It's less work for you down the road. You get the most bang for your buck for the content you're writing and putting out there. Think of it as a reference point, something that people will want to look up later. So what are some examples? So a good example of evergreen. And by the way, I forgot to mention, if anybody has any questions during this, that's absolutely fine. I welcome that rather than waiting for the end. So are you building a strong customer brand relationship? Right? That's something that's going to be relevant, maybe forever. How to change your publishing business model on a dime. I think a lot of people have been going through that over the last few years, where there's all sorts of new tools and resources and business strategies and competition. Top 10 mistakes of the Roman Empire, right? That's not likely to change anytime soon. They're like everything. There's kind of a gray zone, I suppose. Semi-green content, right? Tax strategies for the multi-home owner. So that'll be relevant, for an undetermined amount of time. Converging media and changing competitors. 6 reasons you're lucky to own a BlackBerry. Oh, 5 reasons. Maybe 4. And counting. No offense to any BlackBerry owners in here. Non-evergreen examples. So again, something really all about today. This month, 50% off all nonprofit administration titles. How will the economy will affect retail's 2013 holiday season? SIPA 2013, what stayed in Vegas? Thanks. So those of you who are familiar with SEO and keyword research will look at this and say, well, what's wrong with that? I would say, well, there's nothing wrong with that. In fact, actually, the more specific and timely an article can be with nice, juicy keywords that people are searching for in that moment can be a wonderful thing, right? It's just trying to distinguish it between evergreen, right? It's going to have less staying power than some of those other examples. It's interesting, SEO is maybe one of the most lasting sort of buzzwords to the point of the keynote, over the last decade or more. And I hear every once in a while, I'll kind of meet somebody and say, oh, SEO is dead. I heard SEO is dead. I don't entirely agree with that. I think it's changing. I think Google's algorithm is always changing. I think keywords are still important. The robots are getting smarter. But rest assured, having a keyword strategy and really using the tools and thinking through these things and developing good content is still a very good idea. So I always like to throw out there, one of the great things about SEO and keyword research is that it's a form of market research. And we'll dig a little, we'll look kind of briefly later on about some of the tools that are available for this, particularly for Google. But it's certainly about writing content that people are searching for, that are going lead them to your products and services and brand recognition or whatever your goal might be. But it's also actually a wonderful way just to learn about your customers. You can learn so much about what somebody is typing into Google. Right? Those phrases, which we have access to, tell us so much about what they're looking for, what they're interested in. Are they looking to buy something? And all these various things. What are their pain points? What answers do they want? And how best can you help? And if you do that as a marketer, look at those keywords, it may even lead you to change the name of your product or change the way you think about your product or the way you position it. So absolutely, think of it as a form of market research. So when thinking about evergreen content, here's some examples of the types of content that are more likely to have staying power. It's informational, if it's a reference style, historic posts, like that. A series, which we'll talk a little bit more about in a second, how to construct that. Standalone, something related to previously published content. So maybe you already have a few posts out there or something like that that you are relating back to, or an upcoming offline project. I think what I see are a lot of publishers really getting creative about what is the product now, right? And a lot of times it's turning into events or conferences or webinars, or there's so many different ways to kind of get your product out there. So I think blog used to be kind of a four-letter word amongst publishers. I think it's warmed up a little bit. So I may use that term, but really all I mean, it doesn't have to be a blog. It doesn't have to be trying to create a community and all of this. The point, again, is simply that you are putting some kind of free content out there. So in this example, we'll kind of see this go both ways. So the point of this is that let's just say it is a blog or it's your free content, the free side of your publication. There's really a lot to be said rather than just sort of randomly running out writing posts and whatnot. To really think about a strategy and really think about what can connect, what themes can connect these things. And after you write a few posts in one theme, then you can actually leverage that and turn that into a product potentially. So in this example, constructing a series. The Art of Paris, the Culture of Cuisine, Navigating the Paris Metro. These would all be examples of posts along a central theme that will help build relevance around a certain topic that, again, you could actually turn into a product. It'll kind of keep people coming back for more. And again, with the evergreen model, try to focus on things that will be relevant down the road. So this could go the other way, where I think a lot of people already have a lot of content developed, white papers, whatever it is. You're publishers, you have tons of content, right? So in this case, one of the ways you can think about it is actually deconstructing it. So, hey, how can I turn this 10-page white paper into 5 free blog posts? Maybe it's an older white paper. Maybe you sold it, maybe you gave it away, whatever you did with it. But even if it's 3 years old and the themes in it are still relevant today, that's evergreen content. And it's a great way, a really efficient way. You can just kind of slice it up. Maybe it's already kind of sectioned up. Slice it up, turn it into one blog post a week or whatever. And again, it's thematic, and it's a very easy way to get that content out into the world, get it where people can find it, get it where Google can see it, and then, again, hopefully leading them to whatever you're trying to sell them today versus yesterday. So, yeah, we still talk a lot about keywords. We'll talk in a minute about how some fairly recent changes to the Google algorithm that, it's always changing and it's always, I think getting better for a few reasons. I think the people, I want to say the people who kind of think SEO is dead might be the ones who, in my opinion, were kind of abusing it for a lot of years. The black hats, as we say, the ones that were paying people to send lots of website, things like that. Because that's what Google is constantly fighting against. They really want to reward relevancy and authority. Right? How good is your content? How relevant is it to the keywords that somebody typed in? So I'm not going to get too deep into this. It's kind of a whole other session about optimizing a website, but these are some of the basics. Where do you put keywords, HTML titles, text headings, URLs, image boundings, just gobs of resources about optimizing your site. So this is an important distinction: short tail versus long tail. You may have heard this before, but essentially, I'm actually going to use Aztec as an example. So short tail for us, we're a digital agency, right? So social media marketing, Google Analytics, website design, website development, they're incredibly generic, right? There are just tons of people, there are tons of companies that do that, there are tons of people talking about it. It's going to be really hard to rank. The more generic and the more short tail your keyword is, the harder it is going to be to rank, because there's just more competition. There are that many more people out there writing about that, talking about that. So the real juice for SEO, unless you have an unlimited budget, which I doubt anybody really does, is long tail. Like, that's where you're really going to find your opportunities. So the more specific that title is, the longer it is, the less competition you're going to have for it. And you can also think about it as just being more efficient for you. With a really generic term, let's say you find a way to come up number one for website design. Well, there's so many different ways. There's so many different pieces of the market. Right? I don't personally want to sell web design to every single company in the entire world, because we're focused, right? So social media marketing strategies for nonprofits. We do a lot with nonprofits. How to set up Google Analytics on a website. B2B website design in Chicago, right? That's really specific. SEO website development for publishing. Again, these are really specific, and also I will say these are good evergreen examples. Unless suddenly there are no B2B companies in Chicago that need web services anymore someday, maybe that will go away, but that's very unlikely. So again, just the more specific the phrases, the longer tail it is, the less competition you're going to have, and the more likely you're going to find the customers you're actually looking for, because you know that they're looking for you and they're not just typing something incredibly generic. So here's just a few things to think about when you're choosing keywords for your content. Can this exact phrase be placed in the title and the body of the article? I think something that's been kind of at odds that I think Google, in recent months has really been working to solve is kind of the conflict between marketing and editorial, in the sense that, if you're stuffing keywords into an article or a title or something like that, it can suddenly start to sound quite unnatural. And Google's doing a lot of things now that are kind of rewarding or making it so that you don't have to necessarily stuff all your keywords into one place. So I think that's really good news for publishers. So you can be a little more natural voice. The robots are getting smarter. I'll talk about that in a minute. Is there a low volume of computing pages? There are free tools available, particularly the Google's Keyword Planner, where at a glance you can really get some idea of what is the competition for this keyword phrase. And again, that can help you actually, if you're at the very beginning of your content strategy, it can help you figure out what you want to write about. But maybe you've already written something and you are just trying to figure out what's the best title. It should be relevant, but the less competition, the better. The holy grail is lots of searches and low competition. And then again, like I said, does this read naturally? Right? That's important, because in my opinion, Google's mission with SEO is to reward the best user experience. So if something reads naturally, it's a better user experience. It's just better for the humans. So, it's a great question. I am, focusing on organic, and it's, it's interesting because we often sort of point to this. Essentially, the Google Keyword Planner is part of the paid side, right? And so, I think Google does a lot of things, some subtle, some not so subtle, to get you my ads, because that's how they make all their money. So I think in terms of the keyword strategy and building evergreen content, I think that's so relevant. The big difference is when you move to the paid side of the fence, you can suddenly just buy huge lists of keywords. And yes, it's a global auction, and are you going to always come up number one? It depends on your budget, all these sorts of things. But I think that's the big difference. When you're organic, I mean, you still do have to make some decisions about what are the keywords we're going to use, what's the title, what's the body, and you can't fake it. The paid side is really now the only way to fake it, where you can say, oh, you know what? Yes, I want this article to come up if somebody searches for any one of these 100 keywords. So I think that's the big difference. But I think a lot of these strategies are so relevant in terms of choosing those keywords. Well, the problem you run into on the organic side is duplicate content. So, Google, and this has been around for a while, because a lot of people were trying to kind of take one piece of content and put it in 30 different places. We actually worked with clients who kind of wanted to have their cake and eat it too by having their own site that was kind of a subscription site, and then also syndicating that, and then actually so they were having ad revenue on their site, right, for their content that they were posting there, and then they were taking the exact same content and syndicating it, so they were getting revenue from the syndicates in the network. And that really, even as of a couple of years ago, Google really cracked down on that. And it's really obvious when that happens, when Google makes a huge change like that, because they just cut their revenue in half. So that's the trick you run into. Now, you can, again, if you're writing content maybe in a theme or a series or something where you're not exactly copying and pasting, I think that can work. But I think that's the risk of trying to repurpose content on the organic side. Okay, so here's a case study. This is a website we built with Wiley Publishing around, they have a lot of books in the nonprofit space, so they wanted to create a resource for that. A genuine free resource, which, really at a glance, really does look like a blog. So it's called Nonprofit Community. And this was an interview back in April 2012. And so the title is Spotlight on Event Planners as Fundraisers. Okay? So you've got some kind of juicy stuff in there. And it's going to also, Google's going to kind of combine that with the idea of nonprofit because it's the URL and it's all over the site and everywhere else. So 1,100 words. You might argue that's a little long for a blog, but it's an interview, so it flows quickly. The beauty of this is the interviewee wrote most of the content, right? So it's pretty lightweight in terms of the effort. So here's a chart of kind of what that's looked like since early 2012 to now. So this is pretty common. Right? You're going to have your initial posting of it and some promotion of that, and newsletter and whatever, and you're going to get a little page views. But the rest of this chart, particularly the big spikes, the rest of this chart demonstrates pretty solid evergreen content. So the average time on the page over all that time is almost 4 minutes, which tells me that people were actually reading the article. And it actually was the first page on search for the long tail keyword, nonprofits need event planners. And then also, how do nonprofits benefit from event planners? Right? So again, this is a really good example of what are the phrases, what are kind of the natural word phrases or questions that people are typing into Google that can lead to your content. I don't even know if when they wrote this they were thinking of evergreen content, but it definitely was a topic that's relevant and has some staying power. So again, Google is more than ever favoring what is good for the humans, not just the robots. So write in a style that's accessible to a wide audience. Make it skimmable. People, we all kind of joke, nobody reads anymore, and that's not true. But people have access to more information than ever, right? So they're bouncing between different sources, and you want to, whenever possible, make something skimmable. Now, obviously, a lot of the B2B resources are something people need to dig into, whether it's compliance or whatever the reason. But generally, I just think the way reading habits are kind of going, the more skimmable it is, the better. Videos are only going to become more and more popular and important. Take time with the presentation of it. Just a cluttered, poorly designed page can really turn off a reader. And certainly, no news by now, but it should be mobile friendly as well, because more and more people are reading mobile. And it really depends. Again, if it's something if your publication is something that's required for somebody's job, maybe they're reading that during the day. But if it's a secondary blog or something like that, see when they're hitting the site, because maybe they're reading that on the way to work. If that's the case, it should very much be a mobile experience. And then shareability, that was the last point on that. It should be shared. So, how do you make your content better? It's wonderful to put all this free content into the world, but that takes time and expertise, and is a genuine expense. So, again, we're going to use the word blog just to represent free content, but understand how your blog leads to that paid content purchase. Right? So you have free content. Again, in an evergreen world, hopefully that has a lot of staying power. Strong, clear calls to action. When they get to the bottom of that article, what do you want them to do? Is there a product that you, or an event, or a webinar, or something, or a subscription exactly related to that article, whether it's evergreen or not? Then make sure it's very clear to them. It's a fine line. When you have a blog or free content, you can't just be so promotional that it's going to be something in over head. But at some point, you absolutely do have to tell them what you want them to do, or they'll just read it and say, "Oh, that was nice," and then go away. Kind of an old adage: the fewer clicks, more sales. My rule of thumb is every time you make somebody click, you lose half your audience. Your mileage may vary. Again, relate the free content to the paid materials. I think one thing, a lot of publishers are sort of figuring out, even just the language around free versus premium. Is premium the right word? There was a thread on the marketing list a few months ago about the word paywall, right? And you sort of start to think about the language we use to describe these things. Paywall is kind of an ugly sounding thing, but premium content suddenly exhibits the value of it and distinguishes it from your free content. And then again, if you're going a little further into the blog world, that really means creating a community. We're actually welcoming commentary and discussions to grow an audience and to grow a community. And that's not necessarily the right strategy for everybody, but it really can keep people involved. It can make them interesting. So yeah, actually this gets into a little of the PPC, pay-per-click, paid side of things. How can you make your content pay? Offer a free download from a paid ad, right? So you served an ad, that clicked it. There's a give and take. Right? Hey, fill out this form. Just give us your name and email address, and then you'll get this wonderful thing. HubSpot, I think, it just for a while has really sort of ruled that market. You may have various opinions about how many emails you get from HubSpot, but they're constantly new white papers and new guides, and they're all really specific. It's like, here's five strategies for social media for retail businesses or something like that. Gifts, trials. So, one of the things is to really think about how these channels integrate. Right? So, again, once you know what your keywords are, they can be relevant anywhere. You may have an email newsletter. A lot of email newsletter platforms actually create kind of an archived version of that in HTML. So every email you send could become content. Maybe it's evergreen if it lasts on your website. And so in an email, those keywords might not matter because nobody's finding an email through Google unless it is ends up on your website. SlideShare, really powerful. Everything we do, like this presentation, I'll put on SlideShare. It's just a really simple way. Rather than it, just living with SIPA or wherever, it's a way to just, hey, we created this thing, we put the time into it, let's push it out there. SlideShare and LinkedIn get along really well. So again, even the title of this presentation is going to eventually matter in terms of the keywords because that'll show up. Infographics, it's interesting. We had a lot of clients talking to us about infographics lately and video. People want visual tools. Again, I think people still read, but the more visual, if you can turn a complex concept into something visual, people love it. Again, I think a lot of publishers are doing offline material, whether it's conferences, events. And then it also matters in social media. Something like Facebook is going to be protected, but Twitter is alive and well in terms of search engines as well. So this is just a screenshot from SlideShare. We've had, I think, actually I just say one of the mobile sessions I did a few years ago, I think that alone has more than 10,000 views. So, it's interesting though. This gets us into the so what discussion of marketing. It's like, other than feeding my ego, say, hey, 10,000 views, wow, that's cool, that feels really good. Well, how many of those people call this up? To be honest. So you really have to look at what are the metrics and what are they really doing. In my case, that was absolutely secondary to the main purpose of why I created that presentation, so I'm not worried about it. So as robots get smarter, SEO will more and more handle itself. And I think this is one of the reasons people are kind of saying SEO is dead, whatever you hear, because they are getting smarter. And the smarter they are, the more they understand context, the more they understand synonyms, the more they understand conversational queries. So they look at intent, and they look at the keywords surrounding a link, not just the keywords in a link. That's a pretty recent one. So more and more, again, Google. Someday SEO may die from the standpoint that Google is so smart that it knows that what you put out there, it knows exactly what you were talking about and exactly who wants it. Someday that may happen. We're not quite there yet. How to feed the hummingbird. This is Google's latest algorithm. They name them all after animals. Long tail keywords. Again, use natural conversational. So, contractions. You're going to love the Lumia's brighter smartphone screen. Synonyms. Screen equals display equals monitor. So embrace synonyms, and Google is better than ever at sorting that out. As I just mentioned, use keywords around links, not just links. So best practice means choose good keywords, write awesome, valuable content, write naturally in a way that's interesting and easy to read, promote it, use it wisely, and often. So I think we're a little towards the end of our time. 8.5 minutes. All right. I want to leave a little room for questions, but I'll look at this briefly. I think there's another session for Indeed. We'll go deeper into the Google Keyword Planner, I'm sure. But I did want to mention it. It's an amazing tool, and it's free. And yes, Google wants you to buy ads. We don't have to buy ads. You can just use it to kind of do your market research. And so it will tell you, this is just a kind of a quick snapshot, one example, education, professional development. It'll tell you, what are the average monthly searches for that. Competition is pretty fuzzy. It's just sort of high, medium, low, but it gives you an idea. It gives you an idea in an instant whether or not you want to be focusing on that, whether or not, gosh, do I want to fight that battle? This is an example of, it doesn't seem that attractive. There's not that many monthly searches for it, and it's high competition. So in the PPC world, the cost, that's the cost per click, right? That's fairly high. So one of the wonderful things it does is it gives you all of these ideas, right? It'll automatically permutate your keywords and kind of just tell you, hey, here's all of these other ideas. And then when you kind of look at a broader view of it, dial in a little bit more of the keywords that really make sense. You can export all this data to Excel, which I find very handy, so you can kind of sort it, right, by competition and everything else. Yeah. Well, it depends, certainly on your market, but here's my thing. I think I'd rather have 50 searches. I'd rather have 50 searches for a really specific long-tail keyword with low competition rather than 10,000 searches for something more generic. Because it really depends on the size of your market and how many people you want to be talking to. There's a good chance you don't want to actually talk to 10,000 people, right? But if you could use these tools to find the 50 people you do want to be talking to, I think that's how I approach this idea. That's a very good example. So very different between kind of a service model where, yeah, it's a high investment, high touch, versus, hey, we want 100,000 people because, hey, the more they click, the more they buy. Maybe there's a customer service thing, but that's built into our business model, right? Well, so in that case, I'd say yes. If you found a search that was 10,000, let's see if there's one else. Right. Yeah. These are really high bids because they're still fairly generic products. This one I might kind of zero in on this, and then run some different permutations just on that. That's a really high bid, but it is a lot of searches and it's medium. Again, really the Holy Grail if you found. So I guess my point was if it was like 10,000 searches with high competition, that's going to be dicey. But if you found if you keep adding keywords and you find a phrase that still has 10,000 searches, and you see that competition getting lower and lower, then I think that could be absolutely viable for that. So this is a really important distinction again between organic and paid too, right? So organic is a little closer to my first statement about sorry, let me rephrase that. So the thing about paid ads is you're paying for every single click, right? So if you aren't highly targeted, then you may be wasting a lot of time, even if you do have a kind of turnkey kind of self-service plan. So that's the thing to keep in mind. With organic, hey, if you get 10,000 people to click on it, it's not costing you anything other than maybe the cost of your web server. Great question. Gosh, just to throw something out, I might say half and half. miles will vary. I think it depends. It probably depends on the nature of the publication. If it's a sort of a weekly journal that that's like in the financial space and everything, a lot of things are really, hey, what's happening today, then I think I don't know. Maybe reflect on this. I think I would think your content would lean a little more towards what's timely now. We want to kind of attract people based on this stock report they saw or this news they heard or whatever, kind of things like that. But then I think that even in that example, there's certainly a space or an idea. There's a lot of financial ideas and planning and just best practices that don't change that much or haven't changed much over the years. So. Really quick, another Google tool that's very powerful, Google Insights, google.com/trends. Again, this is, we kind of call this 15-second market research. At a glance, you can figure out, get some idea. It's not going to tell you everything, but get some idea what's trending, what are people interested in, what matters right now, but then also, really, what's cool about it for Evergreen is what's that trend line? So, again, kind of this professional development space actually sort of trending down for that specific term. So, for Evergreen, if you look for something that's steady or even trending up, that's a good thing. Well, thank you very much. Any other questions about Evergreen?